First contact with the Lumini. The Lumini were dying. Elder Ilara watched through the observatory dome as her homeworld's third sun began to flicker erratically. The star's instability wasn't natural. It had been stable for millions of years before suddenly beginning to pulsate 3 cycles ago. The Lumini, beams of pure light and energy contained within delicate crystalline exoskeletons, depended on the precise balance of radiation from their trinary star system. Without it, their bodies would destabilize, their consciousness dissipating into the void. The projections remain unchanged. Science Director Talon reported, his crystalline form dimming with distress. Complete stellar collapse in 47 days. Total extinction of our species in 52. Ilara's form pulsed with resignation. The Lumini had been part of the Galactic Consortium for over 3,000 years, contributing advances in photonic computing and light-based medicine. Yet when they had petitioned for emergency assistance, the Consortium's High Council had classified them as non-essential to galactic stability and denied their request. "There is one option we haven't tried," said Talon, his form brightening slightly with what passed for hope among their kind. "The isolated species from the Edge system, the ones they called Deathworlders. Humans." Ilara's crystalline form dimmed with concern. The Consortium classified them as too dangerous for regular contact. They evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme environmental variations and predators. "Precisely why they might help," countered Talon. "They possess technologies focused on survival and adaptation, exactly what we need, and they haven't been indoctrinated into the Consortium's hierarchical thinking." "You're proposing we break Consortium isolation protocols." Ilara's form flickered with uncertainty. "I'm proposing we survive," said Talon simply. 3 days later, the Lumini transmission vessel Eternal Light breached the quarantine zone around the Sol system, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is an emergency distress call from the Lumini civilization. Our star system is destabilizing, threatening our extinction. We seek assistance from humanity. We come in peace and desperation." On Earth, the message created global chaos. First contact had finally arrived, not as conquest or grand diplomatic overture, but as a plea for help from dying aliens. Commander Maya Rise of the International Space Force stood in the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, her dark eyes scanning the assembled delegates. At 42, she had spent half her life preparing for possible alien contact, but nothing had prepared her for this. "The signal is genuine," she confirmed. "Our deep space monitoring stations triangulated its origin from the Cygnus constellation, approximately 42 light-years away. The ship now orbits Luna, awaiting our response." "And you believe these Lumini pose no threat?" the Russian delegate asked skeptically. "Their vessel contains no detectable weapons systems," Rise replied. "And based on the spectral analysis, their physiology appears to be light-based, contained within crystalline structures. In Earth's gravity, they would be extremely vulnerable." "So they're weak," the Chinese representative noted. "What do we gain by helping them?" Dr. Eli Novak, the Council's xenobiology consultant, stepped forward. "Knowledge. Their message mentioned membership in a galactic consortium that has classified Earth as a death world. If true, there's an interstellar community out there that has been deliberately avoiding us. The Lumini could be our window into this broader cosmic civilization." President Anaya of the African Union leaned forward. "Or they could be lying to manipulate us." "There's only one way to find out," Rise said firmly. "I volunteer to lead a first contact team." 24 hours later, Commander Rise led a team of 12 specialists aboard the Lumini vessel. What they discovered astonished them. The Lumini were breathtakingly beautiful, their crystalline bodies housing swirling vortices of light that pulsed and shifted with their emotions. They moved with deliberate grace, each motion calculated to preserve their fragile structures. The ship itself was a marvel of crystalline architecture, powered by light and thought. Elder Ilara's form brightened as she greeted the humans. We thank you for answering our call when the consortium abandoned us. Through the Lumini's translation field, Rais and her team learned the truth. The Galactic Consortium dominated hundreds of star systems, classifying species by their utility and evolutionary path. The Lumini, while respected for their intellect, were considered physically inferior, their inability to survive in varied environments making them evolutionary dead ends, according to consortium doctrine. But why is your star system destabilizing? Asked Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Earth's leading astrophysicist. Trinary systems can remain stable for billions of years. Science Director Talon projected a holographic model showing evidence of artificial gravitational manipulation, because it's not natural. We believe the Drakari are responsible. Drakari? Rais questioned. A predatory species from a resource-poor system, Ilara explained. They've coveted our homeworld for centuries. The consortium denied their petition to relocate us forcibly, but did nothing to prevent this indirect approach. The humans exchanged shocked glances. This wasn't just a natural disaster. It was genocide disguised as astronomical fate. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Chen, Earth's foremost weapons specialist, studied the data. You're saying they're essentially triggering a controlled nova to wipe you out without leaving evidence of foul play. Precisely, Talon confirmed. And once we're gone, consortium salvage laws would allow them to claim our abandoned world. Rais felt cold fury building within her. And this consortium just allows this. They don't consider us worth protecting. Ilara's form dimmed. We're not adaptable like humans. We evolved on a world with perfect stability. No predators, minimal environmental variations, consistent light and gravity. We developed intelligence and technology instead of physical resilience. Dr. Novak nodded thoughtfully. Evolutionary specialization versus generalization. You became perfectly adapted to your niche, while humans evolved as generalists, able to survive almost anywhere. Which is why we need you, Talon said. Your Deathworld adaptations, what made the consortium fear you, might be exactly what saves us. Rais made her decision instantly. We'll help you, not because we expect payment, but because letting an entire species die when we could save them isn't who we are. 3 weeks later, the first human expedition arrived at the Lumini homeworld, Luminara. The planet was breathtaking. 3 suns creating an eternal dance of light across crystalline forests and shimmering oceans. But the smallest sun flickered ominously, its corona pulsating with unnatural patterns. The human scientists confirmed the Lumini's findings. Artificial gravitational devices had been planted in specific orbital positions, gradually destabilizing the star's fusion processes. The technology was far beyond human capabilities, but not beyond human understanding. We can't remove them directly, explained Dr. Kumar. They're too deeply embedded in the star's corona, but we might be able to counteract their effects. While the scientists worked, Rais and a small team took a shuttle to the nearest consortium outpost, hoping to gain information. What they found was a cold, bureaucratic reception. The matter of the Lumini is closed, stated consortium overseer Mavax, a tall, gray-skinned being with 6 limbs. Resource allocation has been determined based on evolutionary viability. You're condemning an entire sentient species to extinction, Rais argued. Inefficient species make way for the efficient, Mavax replied dispassionately. It is the natural order. There's nothing natural about sabotaged stars, countered Rais. Mavax's compound eyes narrowed. Careful, human. Your kind has not been formally evaluated for consortium membership. Interfering in established hierarchies could be problematic for Earth's future relations. It was a threat, thinly veiled but unmistakable. Humanity could either accept the consortium's order or face isolation. Or worse. Rais smiled thinly. We'll take that under advisement. When they returned to Luminara, they discovered something unexpected. A Drakari warship had entered the system, ostensibly on a scientific observation mission. They're here to watch us die, Ilara said bitterly, and to ensure no evidence remains of their involvement. Ray studied the Drakari vessel through the view screen. Sleek, predatory, heavily armed. Earth's expedition ships were primarily scientific vessels with minimal defensive capabilities. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and operating in a system they barely understood. But Commander Maya Reyes had not come from a death world just to witness another extinction. "We need a plan," she told her team, eyes gleaming with determination. "And I think I know exactly what these consortium species don't expect from a bunch of primitive Deathworlders. Humanity's stand." The Drakari warship Inevitable Conquest maintained orbit around Luminara's outer moon, its crew watching with cold satisfaction as the smallest sun continued its destabilization. Commander Vrax stood on the bridge, his scaled skin reflecting the flickering light of the dying star. "The primitives from Earth are attempting to stabilize the star," reported his science officer. "Their technology is rudimentary. They will fail." Vrax's jaw ridges rose in the Drakari expression of amusement. "Of course they will, but their involvement is unexpected." "How did the Lumini contact them?" "Unknown, Commander. The humans were supposed to remain isolated for at least another century. Their development is unpredictable and potentially destabilizing to the established order. Perhaps we should eliminate them along with the Lumini," Vrax mused. "A regrettable accident during a natural stellar event." On the human expedition's flagship Prometheus, Commander Reyes gathered her team for what might be their final briefing. "The Drakari have positioned themselves to observe the extinction event and eliminate any evidence of their involvement," she explained. "They don't consider us a significant threat, just primitive Deathworlders meddling in affairs beyond our understanding." Dr. Kumar projected a holographic model of the destabilizing star. "We've analyzed the gravitational devices. We can't remove them or shut them down directly, but we might be able to use the Lumini's photonic technology to create a dampening field. The problem," Lieutenant Commander Chen added, "is deployment. We'd need to position stabilizers at precise coordinates throughout the star's corona. Lumini ships can't withstand those conditions, and our vessels lack the necessary shielding." "Actually," Chief Engineer Torres interjected, "I've been working with the Lumini engineers. Their crystalline technology combined with our heat shielding might work. It's experimental, but it's the only chance the Lumini have." Rice finished. "How long would it take?" 3 days to modify a shuttle," Torres estimated. "But there's another problem. The Drakari will detect what we're doing and intervene." Rice smiled grimly. "Then we need a distraction." The plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. While Torres and the engineering team modified a shuttle with hybrid human Lumini technology, Rice would lead the Prometheus on what appeared to be a diplomatic mission to the consortium headquarters, formally protesting their non-intervention policy. Meanwhile, the expedition's second ship, Challenger, would perform a series of complex maneuvers near the Drakari vessel, ostensibly scientific measurements, but actually calculated to draw attention and resources away from the star. "The Drakari will assume we're gathering evidence of their involvement," Rice explained. "They'll focus on us rather than the modified shuttle approaching from the far side of the star. That's going to put Challenger in significant danger," Dr. Novik pointed out. "I'm aware," Rice said quietly. "I'll be on board." 2 days later, as the Prometheus departed for consortium space with a delegation of Lumini, Rice stood on Challenger's bridge as they approached the Drakari warship. "Attention Drakari vessel," she transmitted. "This is Commander Maya Reyes of Earth. We are conducting scientific measurements of the stellar anomaly and request coordination of efforts." The response was predictably hostile. "Return to your designated coordinates, human ship. This area is under Drakari jurisdiction. The Lumini system isn't claimed territory under consortium law," Rice countered, deliberately antagonizing them. "And we've detected unusual gravitational signatures that appear artificial in nature. We're documenting all findings for presentation to the Consortium Council." The threat worked. The Drakari immediately diverted power to weapons systems, their attention fully focused on the human vessel potentially gathering evidence of their crimes. Meanwhile, the modified shuttle Helios, piloted by Taurus and a Lumini navigator, approached the unstable star from the opposite direction. Its hybrid shielding, Earth metals reinforced with Lumini crystalline matrices, glowed as it penetrated the star's outer layers. "We're in position," Taurus reported through the breaking communication, "deploying countermeasures now." On the Challenger, Rise watched as the Dracari vessel moved to intercept them. "Evasive maneuvers," she ordered. "Keep their attention for as long as possible." The human vessel danced through space, using maneuvers developed for Earth's extreme weather conditions, unpredictable, adaptive, constantly changing. The Dracari, used to more formalized combat patterns, struggled to target them effectively. "Their tactics are chaotic." Vrax growled on the Dracari bridge. "No species fights like this." "They evolved as prey and predator simultaneously," his tactical officer explained. "Their combat doctrine reflects this duality." For 17 crucial minutes, Challenger evaded the superior Dracari vessel, taking damage but remaining operational. Then Taurus's voice broke through the static. "Countermeasures deployed. The stabilization field is forming." Almost immediately, the erratic pulsations of the smallest sun began to smooth out. The artificial destabilization was being neutralized. Vrax realized too late what had happened. They'd interfered with the stellar modifications. Target their shuttle. But Torres had anticipated this. The Helios wasn't attempting to escape. Instead, it dove deeper into the star's corona, using the electromagnetic interference to mask its position. "You can't hide forever," Vrax transmitted, abandoning all pretense. "Your primitive technology cannot withstand stellar conditions for long." "It doesn't need to," came Torres's calm reply. "The countermeasures are self-sustaining now, and we've transmitted evidence of your gravitational devices to every consortium world. Your genocide attempt has failed." As if to punctuate her words, the smallest sun flared brilliantly, then settled into a stable rhythm, its light pure and consistent once more. The Dracari vessel immediately changed course, preparing to flee the system before consortium authorities could arrive. But they found their path blocked by the returning Prometheus, accompanied by ships from 3 other previously neutral consortium species who had received the evidence of the attempted genocide. "This changes nothing," Vrax snarled as his ship was escorted to consortium space for justice. "The weak still serve the strong. It is the natural order." "No," Reyes corrected him. "The strong protect the vulnerable. That's the natural order worth fighting for." In the days that followed, the Consortium Council was forced to convene an emergency session. The evidence provided by humans, beings they had dismissed as primitive Deathworlders, had exposed corruption and genocide at the highest levels. Elder Ilara addressed the council, her crystalline form glowing with newfound strength. "The humans came to our aid when you abandoned us to extinction. They risked their lives not for resource gain or political advantage, but because they believe all sentient life deserves protection." "The humans are dangerous," objected one council member. "Their evolutionary path produced unpredictable behaviors and physical capabilities beyond reasonable galactic norms." "Yes," agreed Ilara. "And today that danger protected the galaxy's weakest species from the galaxy's most privileged. Perhaps your evolutionary calculations should include moral capacity alongside physical adaptations." When Ilara finished, Commander Reyes stepped forward. It was unprecedented, a representative from an unaffiliated world addressing the Consortium Council. The chamber fell silent as the Deathworlder spoke. "Humanity doesn't seek to dominate your consortium or disrupt your order," Reyes stated firmly. "But we will not stand by while sentient species face extinction through calculated indifference. If that makes us dangerous, so be it." She paused, surveying the assembled representatives. "Earth formally requests observer status in the consortium, and we sponsor the Lumini for full reinstatement of their membership rights." The council chamber erupted in objections, but several representatives, mostly from physically vulnerable species, voiced their support. The balance of power was shifting. As Reyes and Ilara left the chamber together, the Lumini Elder's form pulsed with the equivalent of a smile. They fear what humanity might become in galactic politics. They should, Reyes replied with a smile of her own, because we're just getting started. 1 month later, a formal alliance was signed between Earth and Luminara, the first of many. Other marginalized species, inspired by humanity's stand against consortium doctrine, began reaching out. A new coalition was forming, one built not on evolutionary hierarchy, but on mutual aid and protection. The Lumini homeworld flourished once more under the stable light of its 3 suns. Human scientists and engineers worked alongside Lumini specialists, combining Earth's adaptive technologies with Lumini light manipulation. In the observatory where Ilara had once watched her world's approaching doom, she now stood with Commander Reyes, gazing at the stars. The consortium classified Earth as a death world, Ilara observed. They meant it as a warning that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, physically overwhelming. And yet here we are, Reyes said, using those same qualities to protect rather than dominate. Perhaps that is why Deathworlders like you evolved as you did, Ilara suggested, her form glowing with insight. Not just to survive your harsh world, but to eventually protect others who could not survive such conditions. Reyes considered this. My ancestors had a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Wise ancestors, Ilara replied. The galaxy will never be the same now that humanity has arrived. Good, said Commander Reyes, watching as a new ship, a hybrid of human and Lumini design, rose from the surface below, its hull gleaming with promise. It needed changing.